Eric, as more of us become vaccinated, the reality is a shot may become a requirement for events and maybe even work. So concern about fake credentials is growing.
This is about science, it's about life and death, and it's about being safe.
But to some folks, it's about making a buck selling fake vaccination certificates online.
It's a lie that can get people hurt and get them killed.
Connecticut, one of 45 states calling for a crackdown.
eBay and Twitter and Shopify not to allow these fake vaccination cards to be sold on their platforms.
Sellers and buyers could face prosecution.
If you exercise that choice, you cannot then go and commit something that's likely a crime and misrepresent that you have been vaccinated.
Emerging vaccination requirements will raise the stakes.
Private employers may be able to require that. And it depends on the situation.
Officials say you can help. If you see fake certificates being sold online, take a screenshot and send it to the Department of Consumer Protection.
Well, I don't know why people are selling fake ones, maybe because it's easier to just buy a fake one. I don't know why people are using fake ones.
Tong believes the solution is education.
It all comes from the amount of misinformation and disinformation that's out there about vaccines and this movement out there to tell lies about the COVID vaccine.
And the AG says not only can posting your vaccination card on social media compromise your privacy, it can even help the people hawking the fake ones. Have you seen these cards sold online? Let us know on our News 12 Facebook page.
Social epidemiologist from Stony Brook School of Medicine is head of a group releasing new information today that shows almost 40,000 children have lost a parent due to coronavirus. And researchers say sweeping national reforms are needed right now to help those children.
It is a staggering number.
Dr. Rachel Kidman with Stony Brook University says this new model shows tens of thousands of children under the age of 18 have lost at least one parent to the coronavirus.
We estimate 40,000 children have lost a parent. And that is about a 20% bump in what we would normally see absent COVID.
The model also shows that Black children are disproportionately affected. They make up 14% of children in the U.S., but 20% of those who have lost a parent to COVID.
Kids who lose a parent are more likely to be depressed or suicidal. They're more likely to drop out of school. There are really long-term implications, even for adulthood. But we don't know how children are dealing with their grief during this really unique period of social isolation.
I think she's going to feel it. She's always going to, she does ask, for her daddy, she does bring him up. And, it's tough. It's tough on the family, like when we hear that, everybody starts to tear up.
As News 12 reported last summer, Shirley Robertson's 34-year-old brother, Raul, died from the coronavirus.
I always tell my nieces, always, do good because your daddy's watching, from up in heaven. And, he's always going to be watching over you.
The West Sayville nurse left behind his wife and 2 daughters.
I missed him a lot. I wish he could have been there. I know he's watching from heaven, but I miss him a lot.
Well, Tama, the pain those families and these kids are feeling has got to be just unbearable. So what do doctors suggest we can do to help?
Well, Macy, researchers say grieving children and their families are going to need financial, social, and emotional support. They suggest that a federal database be established to track those children and that federal policies are created with money attached to programs to help them and their families.
It was a busy morning at the 161st Yankee Stadium station. As riders entered and exited the station, MTA chairman and CEO Patrick Foy handed out cloth masks with a team of volunteers.
Mask compliance on the subways and buses, I'm happy to report, is over 98%. The reason we're out today is to distribute additional masks.
The MTA has put forth several mask initiatives during the last year. This new program continues to encourage riders to wear a mask, including the young ones.
The new change is 60,000 kids masks distributed by the state of New York, which we're going to be distributing on the D and the 4-5 this morning.
Kelmel Arroyo, Chief Accessibility Officer, was on the forefront in advocating for comfortable masks for the youngest population.
Not all of our riders are adults. we want the whole family to come back into the system. It is safe, and we are welcoming them all back in.
Despite face coverings becoming part of our new normal, some writers express the need of programs like this to continue.
It's very good for them to, because there are many people going around. Yeah, so it's better. Some people cannot afford. I used to give some to other people.
Others say they're doing their part in protecting themselves and others.
Without the mask, we get more sick. So if I get sick, my patient gets sick.
Volunteers will continue to pass out reusable masks this month as part of their pop-up Mask Force initiative. Joanna Hernandez, News 12.
Well, they're saying that right now schools in our area like this one could be in big trouble. Until recently, children weren't considered nearly as infectious as adults and rarely got sick with COVID. But now experts say that's changing as they're seeing a spread of the UK variant amongst children here in the Northeast and around the world.
This B117 variant is a brand new ballgame. Unlike the previous strains of the virus, we didn't see children under 8th grade get infected often, or they were not frequently very ill.
But Dr. Michael Osterholm says that's not the case anymore, that several hundred schools in his home state of Minnesota have reported cases of the UK variant, and they're seeing record numbers of kids in the hospital. Officials are seeing this phenomenon around the world. According to the British Medical Journal, since the emergence of the UK variant in Israel in mid-December, the proportion of new daily cases accounted for by children aged under 10 had risen by nearly a quarter, 23%. And in a small village in Italy, 60% of new cases were children of primary or infant school age. We asked parents if this news incentivizes them to get their children vaccinated if or when one gets FDA approval. Their reactions? Mixed.
Still no. I'm not convinced with I'm not even vaccinated yet, and I'm not judging those who are. I just need to see more of a consistency with the research.
As soon as she's able to.
And how come?
Well, it's about protecting everyone. Everybody can spread it to anybody else in whatever communities they're in, schools included.
Westchester County Executive George Latimer doesn't think this should halt plans to reopen schools full time.
I think the schools will open safely. However, if I'm wrong and the critics are right, then we'll certainly take action to go in the other direction.
And what we're seeing is that this news coming out is not changing where parents stand on whether or not they want to send their kids back to school full time. Ian?
So Samantha, how do experts say that we get out of this?
Well, there's different opinions. Some say they think vaccination should be enough, that if we reach herd immunity, that we would be able to halt and stop this fourth wave potentially stemming from children. Others say that we may also have to consider bringing back some restrictions in areas where we're seeing a surge. Ian.
All right, Samantha, thank you.
Call it the power of social media and the persistence of a tight-knit community. This video from students Eli Ackerman, Jake Arnowitz, and Tyler Casey quickly made the rounds in late December.
It was really amazing. The views just kept piling up.
A few days in, the kidney campaign for Daniel Pompa landed in front of Wilton dad David Cody.
I knew of Mr. Pompa, I've met him a couple of times, parked our Jeeps next to each other in the parking lot here, and had heard nothing but wonderful things about him.
Even without a personal relationship, Cody didn't hesitate to contact the transplant team at Yale New Haven Hospital. After weeks of screenings and tests, Cody found out he was a match.
There really wasn't a thought process. It was, he needs a kidney, I've got two, he only needs one.
Cody decided the kid should be the one to share the news with Pompa since their video made this happen.
When we were able to tell him, we set up a trivia game, a little 20 questions game where we had Mr. Pompa guess who the donor was. And finally, we revealed the donor over Zoom.
Hey, Mr. Pompa, it's David Cody.
Pompa developed kidney problems after an infection from surgery in 1995.
I can't believe that after a 20-year journey dealing with my kidney that it may actually come to an end.
Over time, his kidneys worsened. In 2019, doctors told him a transplant was the only option.
They had told me that when I was put on the list that it could take up to 6 years. They told me I wouldn't make 6 years. So the fact that the video gave me this time, that's just amazing.
In Wilton, Marissa Alter, News 12, Connecticut.
16-year-old Hannah Reva Goldberg of Great Neck, the first teen under 18 to get the COVID-19 vaccine at Cohen's Children's Medical Center in New Hyde Park.
I wasn't nervous, but I was really excited to be the first one.
I feel a lot more relaxed knowing that she is now vaccinated against COVID.
Today, all New Yorkers 16 and older became eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine. Previously, it was 30 and up. And since children under 18 need parental consent, 17-year-old Paul Navarro of Hempstead had his mother by his side for his shot.
It's going to be good for my family, both for my family and myself, because I have underlying issues, my family has underlying issues.
This is a step in the right direction for us to get back to normal, hopefully.
All 3 teens here today received the Pfizer vaccine. For now, that is the only one approved for children 16 to 18.
When they did their original trial, they actually tested down to 16 years of age. It will protect not only the kids themselves, but will protect entire families and the community, because we know that the kids can spread it. So if they're immunized, they're not going to be spreaders.
Moderna and Johnson & Johnson only conducted their clinical trials on people 18 and older.
I'm here to give you your Moderna vaccine today.
And over at Stony Brook University, the VP of Student Affairs says as soon as they found out eligibility was dropping to 16, they sent out an email to all students to organize a vaccination pod.
Within an hour and a half, we had all 1,400 slots filled.
And Stony Brook plans to vaccinate 1,500 students a week straight through the first week in May. Eileen LaPalmer, News 12, Long Island.
And the vaccine eligibility could eventually extend to children under 16. There are now clinical trials being conducted on children 6 months to 12 years old.
And a first on 12 right now, a new plan in Nassau to vaccinate the homebound. News 12's health reporter Sherry Einhorn has the very latest.
They've covered a lot of bases, but I feel that they forgot this group.
Judy Barr says she feels like she was forgotten. The 59-year-old Glen Cove woman has multiple sclerosis and is homebound. She's been unable to leave her house or her bed to get her COVID-19 vaccine. Her husband, who is also in a wheelchair, was able to get his shot, but says he felt lost trying to fight for his wife.
You feel like you're in limbo, and it just creates stress that's unneeded in these circumstances.
Back in mid-January, Nassau County first announced help for seniors. In mid-March,
you have reached the Nassau County Senior Vaccine Call Center.
That's when the county launched a call center dedicated to helping seniors book vaccine appointments. Today, County Exec Laura Kern announced additional help for homebound seniors and others who can't get out to get the vaccine. 150 police medics are being trained to go inside people's homes to administer the single-dose Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
Now that we have Johnson & Johnson coming to us, the county, we feel that that is best to use for the homebound because the logistics are just so much easier.
Training is underway and the new program should be up and running by next week. Appointments aren't available yet, but will eventually be made by calling the senior hotline number.
Over in Suffolk County, anyone who is homebound and can't get the vaccine through your doctor or local hospital can call 311. There you'll be connected to a public health nurse for evaluation and if you qualify, for an appointment. On the Health Beat, I'm Sherry Einhorn, News 12 Long Island.
Nassau County Executive Laura Curran says an announcement will be made once those appointments open up for the homebound.
And company is the Handmade Market Co. It's home with the Long Island. It was actually the end of March when we were on lockdown, and my printer, Jared, he actually reached out to me and said, hey, I was thinking about it. Wouldn't it be really cool if you did a work from home tee? Let's do stay home because it's a stay home order right now, and I think that would be really cool.
So it was shirts that you were selling and then raising money to go to COVID relief.
Yeah, so I made this stay home tee, which I'm wearing right now. I found United Way of Long Island, and they were raising money specifically for COVID relief, families on Long Island that were suffering financially.
Any projects in the future?
The past 2 Octobers, I've done pink hope tees. Instead of home, it's hope with the Long Island. This May for Brain Cancer Awareness Month, I'm going to do braid teas.
You're going to be suffering too. What was it in you that you were like, now I want to help other people?
Pride is my idea, but I get to give back in a fun way.
Appreciating where you come from, so it just fits that you appreciate the people who live here too.
Well, I definitely love helping people. Seeing this whole COVID crisis kind of play out and being totally unable to help people. And I give so much credit to first responders, nurses, all these people that are on the front lines and have the guts to do that, and I don't. So that's why like this was my way of being able to do something positive.
Hey, you got guts.
Yeah, thank you.
Guts.
Thank you.
And a push to bring the Latinx community together through travel. That's the goal Bronx native Pablo Enrique Segarra had in mind when he co-founded the Latinx Travel Club. News 12's Jericho Tran sits down with Segarra to find out more.
The club was created to serve the multidimensional lives of the Latinx traveler. And the way that we do that is through culture, empowerment, and sustainability.
As a child, Pablo Segarra looked for ways to bridge his life in America together with his Puerto Rican heritage.
My mother used to have a painting on her wall in her office. It was a painting of a bridge. This beautiful bridge, one side of the bridge was the island of Manhattan. The other side of the bridge was the island of Puerto Rico. And I used to think continuously how cool it would be if we could just create this bridge, a bridge for the diaspora to stay connected to their culture.
With the pandemic limiting travel, the Latinx Travel Club hopes to bring tourism back to Latin countries while also strengthening the Latinx community.
Our net worth, our GDP, it's increasing. It's substantially increasing. We want to be able to hone in on this force and to be able to push these ideas of biculturalism and triculturalism, that it's understandable that it's okay for you to be able to be both American and Latinx at the same time.
A member of the Latinx Travel Club and local activist David Ortiz made headlines last year as one of the activists who knelt with New York City Chief of Department Terrence Monahan and knows all too well how the last year impacted the Latinx community.
Latinx Travel Club can bring light to these destinations that people that have been ravaged through COVID-19 and that's not necessarily have the resources anymore to reach out to these individuals to continue to bring any type of tourists.
Segarra plans to host the first Latinx Travel Summit in Miami during October on the last day of Hispanic Heritage Month as a way of bringing industry leaders together. Portions of the proceeds from the club will go to local community organizations. Jericho Tran, News 12.
The Rogers Garden opened for the first time in July.
We have rums from all over different islands. We are literally trying to bring people to this bar and allow them to feel like there's a part of the islands that they're still connected to. It's like a fun place to come to, so it is truly kind of like an oasis.
Co-owner Garnett Phillips says opening in the middle of a pandemic with so much uncertainty wasn't easy, but she was determined to make her dream come true.
I knew that no matter what happened, this has to work.
That meant adjusting to new restrictions. Since the bar doesn't have a kitchen, they partnered up with other local businesses to bring food in and have pop-ups in the garden too. Businesses like Brooklyn Rub Spice Co., famous for their jerk cabbage.
It's a place for us to showcase what we have, but it's also a place for my husband and myself to kind of engage with our community.
Phillips says she's put her heart and soul into this bar.
I'm a Black woman, entrepreneur. I'm a mom of 2 little boys, and I'm a wife. I work really hard, and I love this. And coming to this bar is truly getting a piece of Garnett's love for the islands.
She says she hopes to see more people come out, especially here in the garden as it gets warmer outside, to get a taste of the Caribbean.
If you are the kind of person that wants just to get away after a long day of work, you're gonna come here and you're gonna feel that love from me and the staff.
Now the Rogers Garden currently only has food pop-ups here on the weekends, but the owner tells us as it gets warmer outside, that will turn into every day of the week. In Flatbush, Emily Lorsch, News 12.
Well, you're exactly right about that. In fact, these pandemic times have been tough on businesses all across the country. As a matter of fact, some of them have even gone under. But there are some success stories, like here in Ossining, where business owners are striving to survive, reopen, and rebuild.
Help is here. Help is here.
A walk through Ossining's business district taking on a whole new meaning with the presence of U.S. Congressman Mondaire Jones. The freshman congressman paying special visits to businesses hard hit by the pandemic, but still open,
with the help of loans through the American Rescue Plan.
We know that it's more than just helping small business owners. It is putting residents of Westchester and Rockland County back into the workforce, allowing them to provide for their families, and ultimately allowing us to reopen as a society and as an economy.
The plan was recently expanded by Congress to the tune of $7 billion.
And when I speak to small business owners, they are saying that the PPP program has literally been a lifeline for them.
Catherine Carena and her husband Luis call the loan from the Paycheck Protection Program a lifesaver.
For a lot of our staff, they were just waiting for us to be able to bring them back, and that's what we use the money for.
The PPP offers loans to small business owners to keep their workers on payroll.
Fortunately, you were able to get a PPP loan.
I was.
In order to qualify, borrowers must demonstrate at least a 25% reduction in gross receipts in any quarter in 2020 relative to the same quarter in 2019. And the business must employ fewer than 300 workers. Additionally, the light at the end of the tunnel loans are giving business customers renewed hope as well.
We need more help like that for other businesses.
And they definitely deserve it, and we hope they definitely get it. Now, the Small Business Administration is offering those PPP loans to qualified borrowers now through May 31st of this year. In Ossining, Carol Wilkinson, News 12.
We're really horrified and terrified to learn recently that there are toxic chemicals in our water.
The Rockland Water Coalition Monday announced their petition of over 1,000 signatures, pushing the state to take action against chemicals in the drinking water.
We are calling on Governor Cuomo to ensure safe, clean drinking water for all. We're calling for quick and thorough cleanup of all PFAS, chemicals in our drinking water, down to non-toxic, non-detectable levels.
PFAS are chemicals used in everything from plastics to firefighting foam and linked to health issues like high blood pressure and cancer. While federal limits for these chemicals is 70 parts per trillion, last summer the state tightened the limit to 10 parts per trillion.
16 wells in Rockland County now exceed that new state standard, while nearly every well in the county has some level of contamination.
The water hasn't changed, the standard did. And even before New York State lowered the standard, we began sampling and designing treatment, which we will now invest the necessary technology and facility upgrades to remediate the substances from our drinking water.
In March, federal lawmakers called on the EPA to step in.
And unfortunately, my office has still not heard back from the EPA, and so we're going to be following up in short order on that subject.
But Monday, the EPA did respond to us, telling News 12 our drinking water is regulated by the state. And at this time, it does not appear the EPA's direct assistance is needed. The CDC says the health effects from low-level exposures are unknown, while the EPA explains PFAS are absorbed and can accumulate in the body to the point where they can lead to health effects.
We must do the same with PFAS chemicals as with lead, ban the production, and start the cleanup now.
In West Nyack, Beth Cefalu, News 12.